I want to talk about this thing about being current. And I'm having some interesting experiences that I love. Like before I went on the Canary cruise, your Abraham-Hicks cruise this fall, I knew before I left on the cruise that the home I was living in, the way it was presented, wasn't going to be a match to the me I was going to come home as. I painted my entire bedroom, I bought new linens, I bought new towels, and I didn't know who I would be exactly, but I knew it needed to be a little different. And it was awesome to come home and be that new person, matched to that. I attended your workshop last weekend in Asheville, and before I left, I had this inspiration to take a couple of bags, grab up some stuff that didn't fit anymore, drop it off at Goodwill. These things where I can see who I'm about to be. So what's going on? I love it. I'm good with it. But is there something that I could understand better about that?
Well, what you are amplifying here, and this matters a lot, is the perspective shift. Shift isn't quite the right word. The perspective relationship between what is and what you're observing, and what vibrationally is and what you're observing. And if you've been following us for a while, we've been talking about this vibrational reality, and we call it your vortex. It's a vibrational reality where who you really are is vibrationally dwelling, and who you really are is different, sometimes greatly different and sometimes slightly different from who you are being. And it all has to do with how big that gap is between what the vibration of your vortex is and what the vibration of your day-to-day experience is. So most people are keeping that gap significant by their intense observation of what is. It is literally like calling what is past tense and what's in the vortex present tense. And you can't focus on past and present at the same time. Now, we know we're asking a lot of you. In fact, you think we're asking even maybe more than we are asking. We're not asking you to ignore your present tense. We're just asking you to put more emphasis on what's in the vortex. Give the vortex more airtime. Well, the vortex is less satisfying for most humans because you can't see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it. You can feel it. The vortex is an emotional experience. The now reality is a see it, hear it, smell it. So just for clarification, let's call what is conditional and what's in the vortex unconditional. So let's say that there's a condition that you want to change. Could be a bodily condition, could be a relationship condition, could be a financial condition, could be a world condition. There's a condition that you would like to be different than it is. And when you look at it as it is, your very attention to it as it is gets in the way of the evolution you seek. Because conditional doesn't work. Because condition holds you in the past and doesn't let you move into the future. You following this a bit? We know we're stretching your brain to get this, but stay with us because you're on the verge of understanding this. So let's say that what you want is more money, and the condition right now is full of evidence to the contrary. Your bank account tells you by the minute how much is in it, and your wallet does too, and you're moving around in life with all kinds of things that you are seeing and wanting and not being able to afford. Your credit card statements are coming in. In other words, there's a lot of factual information that is confirming to you what is, and we want to say what has been, but what is, what has been. So you can't do anything right now to change that. There's nothing that you can do in this moment that's going to change that right now. Long term you could, but right now it's not going to change. But what can change right now is you can change from worry to fun right now by focusing. you could change from concern to less concern right now. You could take a path of least resistance. Let's say you've got a job and you don't like it. Maybe it changed, maybe you've changed. You don't like your job, you'd like to quit. So you say, I'm going to quit my job. Well, that's not the path of least resistance. Quitting your job isn't the path of least resistance. You don't like it, but quitting it you would not like even more for a lot of reasons. So you can't do anything to change that condition right now. You're sort of trapped in it if you're approaching it conditionally. But you could call it a temporary job. That gives you a little relief. You could call it a short-term job. You could acknowledge that you're on your way to something that you like better. You could acknowledge that that job helps you identify what you like more. In other words, you can have an unconditional improvement in your emotion, and you can do it right now. You can improve your emotion enough that you become a vibrational match to what is current in your vortex, and now you and your vortex are one. There's no split in the vibration. So now the vibration of your vortex can be realized by you. An idea will occur to you. Now you're in the receptive mode, where when you're looking at the money that you don't have, you're not in the receptive mode. You see what we're getting at? It's powerful. When you become unconditional, when you don't spend so much time trying to explain what is by comparing what your is to what somebody else's is, by explaining to somebody else how you got to your what is, by defending your what is, even though your what is doesn't please you right now. And we just want you to let go of that conditional reality just for a little while and accept that everything you want to change is because you believe you will feel better when you do, and that you do have the ability to feel better now, whether any of it changes right now or not. And when you get that, you've got everything. And that's what's going on with you. In other words, you're starting to translate that, which means you're getting ideas about releasing some of that. Most of you spend so much time accumulating whatever it is. Maybe it's relationships, maybe it's money, maybe it's stuff. Go to the store and buy one more thing and bring it home in order to fill a void that can only be filled with this vibrational acuity. In other words, that's what you're reaching for all along. And so what happens is, the more you allow yourself vibrational alignment, then the more you enjoy this alignment evolving, not devolving, evolving into more manifestations that please you. And so, of course, isn't it logical that as you evolve vibrationally, that the things that surround you would change too?
Right.
Yeah.
So as I receive these inspirations, these thoughts, it's feeling good for me to just go for it. I've done things that might not seem to make sense in that moment, but they turn out absolutely perfectly.
But here's the thing. We want to clarify the statement that you just made, and we want you to understand how it can help you and how it cannot help you.
Okay.
It's making sense to you because you're receiving the inspiration of it. But when you play it back through the lens of other people, then it doesn't make sense to you.
Right.
Well, don't do that.
Yes. Okay.
Because that's what holds you in patterns that aren't serving you.
Right.
It might not make sense to the old you who really spent a long time looking for that and finding it and bringing it home and really liking it.
Yes.
But it's not a vibrational match to the current you.
Thank you.
And you got to be current or you're not whole. You got to be current or you're not in sync with the whole of who you are. You got to be current or you're not the extension of source energy that you mean to be. You got to be current. You got to be vibrationally current. And when you are vibrationally current, all kinds of things that felt meaningful to you because they were filling a void or shoring something up become unnecessary, and they easily fall by the wayside. And you get lighter and freer and lighter and freer. And we're not talking you out of possessions. That's not what we mean at all. But we are talking you out of possessions that you are using to justify or validate your goodness or your worthiness or your wholeness, because they will reflect how you feel, you see.
A few months ago, I had an experience that I'm curious about if I was vibrationally current in that moment to have received what I received. I had a very interesting physical reaction where I felt like I was going to faint. It didn't feel bad. It just felt, it was a very physical response. It was on Christmas Day. It was at Christmas dinner. It was a 15-minute time period approximately. And at that time period, my boyfriend transitioned in another state. So what I'm wanting to know.
So what happened was, in his immediate attention upon you, from a place of powerful, pure positive energy, you were summoned by his attention to a vibration that you had not been accommodating. Christmas dinner, for heaven's sakes.
He picks great timing for everything.
All those people and all those things going on. In other words, Esther would describe that in the early days of receiving Abraham, when she was in the early days sitting in a chair holding on for dear life, because she knew that when she allowed Abraham, or she allowed herself, she reached for the vibration that was Abraham, she knew it was going to be a sort of swooning experience for her, as her energy moved upward suddenly. And that's what happened. Your energy moved upward suddenly by the attention on you from someone that you were tied to, who was right now in a very high vibrational place. Yes.
Okay. So it is that knowing. It's that knowing and realizing that that is what's happening. I mean, I knew I was different instantly, but I just didn't know what exactly was different.
We are so happy that you have said that, because it helps us to say something that we already said, but in a better way, which is all of those dearly not really departed who are aware of you and focused with you are in a very high vibrational place. And for you to interact with them, you must be too. So this also ties in with what we said earlier about, if your desire is really, really strong, it doesn't matter what your belief is. And your desire and your relationship and your connection with all of that was what was dominant. And so whoosh, up you went with it, up into the higher vibration you went. And it was so sudden that it sort of made you feel disorientation. We don't want you to feel disoriented in your connection to source energy. We want you to practice yourself into normalcy about it. We want the offness to feel when you depart from it, not when you join it.
So a few days later, when I gave the eulogy, was that him talking or was that me? Because the things I said were not the things.
It was the vibrational intention that he was offering, and you being in the receptive mode, which was a rather remarkable thing.
It was
a remarkable thing given everything else that you were feeling around that. But that desire is dominant. This is what we want to say to you. Your well-being is so dominant. You don't have to be pure in it. You just have to get somewhere in the vicinity of it, you see. You just have to let the fulcrum tip in favor of your alignment with who you are.